Hi, Peter.
Hi, Dana. Good to be here with you.
Thank you so much for making time and for your patience and for all the 1, 2, 3s we went through in the test run. I hope it's not just the two of us, but there's also at least a third one, or hopefully a few more of you watching us. So if you're here, drop a comment, say hello, show some signs of life, give us a wave. I see there's at least 2 viewers already. So let's see if there's going to be more who can join us today. That would be really, really nice. And I will just check my other device to see if there is life on the other side. But in the meantime, Peter, how's your Monday going?
It's going really, really well, except for internet issues, which we solved. So outside of that, everything is going great. Thank you. How's yours?
Internet issues. Oh, hi, Ina. Great to see you here. And Aga is here. Fantastic. So my Monday is already doing perfect because everyone's here. The tech issues are gone. The sound works wonderful. Look, Peter, this session is probably the one that I've heard most resonance people reaching out to me saying, I'm so looking forward to it. I am so curious, what this is going to be about. I so feel that I could learn something. And I, for one, can tell absolutely the conversation that you and I had a while back when we were kind of brainstorming about this session. I was like, wow, there is just so much more than I should be doing in my thinking, in my kind of way of living, and in my overall life strategy. So I don't want to spend any moment in niceties. I want to dive deep into everything you know and you can tell us, and the audience. I see so many hellos in the chat. So they're here, equally as excited to learn from you. And I don't know, to kick us off really, really briefly, who are you for those of us that don't know you? What do you do? Why is this a topic that you feel you can share with the rest of the world?
So super quick, thank you to everybody being here, and thanks for having me, Dana. Peter Sorgenfrei, I'm Danish, live in Copenhagen. I've spent the last 20 years building 6 companies, both in the United States, in the UK, and in Denmark. Hired hundreds of people and built careers for and with them in those companies. 5 years ago, I started working one-on-one with primarily CEOs and founders and executives who somehow are stuck, who somehow lost themselves in life, either in their professional life, ended up somewhere they didn't feel they wanted to be, or in their personal life, having challenges at home. So today I'm a one-on-one coach, clients in 13 countries, worked with 63 founder CEOs over the last 5 years, and just love helping people get unstuck, basically. That's what I do.
Yeah. So if we can match the what you do and what I do a little bit together, you get them unstuck, and I get to the right place in the career where they decide that's the right thing. And I think this is critical element before we dive into really what does it mean to get unstuck and how to think about it. I think in order to land in that right job or career, or whatever else it is that you're looking to get unstuck in, is you truly need to decide and figure out where is that right place for you. And I see quite a few incredibly smart, capable individuals who definitely could do the job. But the moment I or the hiring team senses that they're not quite there in the thinking yet, right? They're not really crystal clear about what is it and how do they want to do that next chapter. As soon as they sense there's a little bit of a hesitation, it can be a deal breaker. So how do we
Mhm.
get to that place of clarity, Peter?
Well, I think you're touching upon something extremely important that a lot of people don't experience until quite late in life, which is understanding who they are, right? Because
Mm.
the hesitation you're feeling is because somebody is trying to either wear a suit that doesn't quite fit, not literally, but also figuratively. Now there's a dog with us. That's amazing. I love dogs. And so they're wearing a suit that doesn't quite fit. Or they're wearing values or something that is not completely aligned with who they are and who they want to be in the world. And that's what you're sensing. So I think the first step for somebody finds themselves stuck in some way, either in a job or not getting to that next job, is to take a hard look and saying, am I the person that I want to be? Or did I end up in some place that is actually not quite me? And what does that mean? Right? Does it mean that I need to change the stories that I'm telling myself about who I am? And does it mean that I need to change my environment? Is there something that I've wanted to learn that I didn't learn that I need to go back and learn before I can take the next step? There can be many aspects to this, but it starts with you, unfortunately. It starts with you doing the work, not the people around you.
Peter, if you don't mind, I know that your own personal story has taken you to quite a few reevaluations and significant kind of rethinking of what is it that you want and where do you want to get. Can you share us a little bit? Because for me personally, there's nothing like quite, the real hard decisions and situations we've been through that takes you
Mm.
to that place of confidence. Tell us a little bit more on what did you live through?
So as I said, I've built a bunch of companies over a period of almost 2 decades, and my entire identity over all those years was the guy who took where there was nothing and created something, building up businesses. Basically, my entire being was being a professional human being. And what that led me to is to not be a very good personal human being, in the sense that I wasn't me. I was playing a role. I was the executive. I was the founder. I was the CEO. And that spilled over into my personal life. So over all those years, I essentially lost my way completely. And it came to a head in 2000, in the fall of 2019, in the beginning of 2020, where one morning I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. I physically could not move because my brain essentially had shut me down from stress and anxiety and all sorts of other things and said, nope, we're just going to stay here. And so I was 45 at the time. I thought it was a brain tumor. I was scared I was going to die, but it turned out just to be stress. And I put that in quotation marks because it is obviously a very serious issue for many who go through it. As I was lying there, as that happened, I started thinking about, well, who the heck am I? Why have I gotten to this point where my body has to shut me down in order for me to reevaluate? Why didn't I listen to my family, my friends, my spouse, the people around me who said, maybe you should slow down, or maybe you should think about doing something different? Why didn't I hear those voices? Part of my story is also that I got divorced during this process. I ended up splitting up with my wife, and I just completely lost myself. So I spent better part of almost 2 years trying to figure out what am I going to do next and who am I going to be, and what it has cost me to do. And this is a very privileged position. I realize that is I only do stuff now that is true to the values of the values that I carry, of who I am. I say no to a bunch of stuff because it doesn't feel right. And I know that that's a luxury that is not afforded to many, maybe early in their careers, but that's what I'm trying to get people to think about. Are you making choices on a daily basis that do not reflect who you are? And if you are making those choices, can you make different choices that align with more of who you want to be in the world?
And I know that when you are in that situation, when life physically forces you. I mean, I'm sure it was incredibly hard. At the same time, you were forced, right, to reevaluate and rethink what serves me. How do I want to continue living? But for those of us that are in that stage, Peter, where we hear from our people slow down, maybe, let's take a bit of a break. You are too invested in your work. This cannot be sustainable. How and we keep going. I mean, those of us, high performers, really capable professionals, we just keep going because obviously, and I'm sure it was the same for you, there is big parts of the work that we do that fulfills us, that drives us. But how do you stop yourself from entirely going all in? And maybe not everybody has to.
Um, it's an incredibly difficult question because it's very individualized, right? So what might work for you, Dana, may not work for Aga or somebody else who's on the call. So it all comes down to the individual situation. But I think for most people, what works is to spend time by yourself without any input. So no devices, no music, no anything to distract you. Ideally in nature, and just go for long. I was about to swear, I'm not going to do that, but go for long walks and think about where you are. Think about what's going on. Think about the patterns that you're in. It might be in your relationship. It might be in your work life. It might be in family connections. Think about what's happening in those patterns. What is happening? Is it always you who says yes to stuff? Is it always you who just goes the extra mile? How does it feel? And then start imagining what could be done differently. For many, it is a small change. It's looking at your schedule, at your calendar, literally saying, how am I spending my time? What time do I get up? What happens then? What time do I go to work or start my work, whichever way you're doing it? What happens during the day? What time do I come home or stop working? What time do I go to bed? What happens in the evening? What am I doing on the weekend? If you kind of just look at your calendar and say, how am I spending my time? For many people, that will start setting some flares up saying, oh, wait a minute, I haven't actually seen my best friend in 3 months. Why did I stop texting them? Or my partner has said to me a couple of times, I'm too invested in my work. And when I look at my schedule, I can see that we actually haven't had a weekend in 4 months where I wasn't working. So maybe what they're saying is true. So the thing is, you have to disconnect the a person telling you something is wrong because you disregard that, oh, they don't know, and then go into your own world, which could be your calendar, and then from that start saying, actually, there's probably something that's out of balance here.
Yeah. And what could be the cost if you don't do it? If you don't, you just keep going. You're like, oh, these people, they don't know. My life is so fulfilled, so exciting, so, yeah, it's intense. Sure. I mean, we recognize it, but, everybody says I'm doing amazing, right? And I am, and I'm building my career, and this is the job. And yeah, for sure there's things that are not going great, but overall everybody says I'm successful. What is the cost if I just keep going without any walk in the forest and really thinking?
I don't think we have to look very far to realize what the costs are. Um, I'm pretty sure that every single person on this call who's listening to this, if they take a moment and think about something that is not going well in their life, they can either think about, I'm not sleeping good at night. I feel anxious and stressed in certain situations. My relationship is not where I want to be, either with my partner or with my kids or with my parents or with my siblings, whatever it is. If anybody on this call has no issue anywhere in their life, I'd like them to raise their hand if they're so brave, because
Not me.
where exactly, because we're human, and where we end up, you said, what is the cost? Well, the ultimate cost is you die, right? I mean, I have had clients who literally have been, by their own admission, you know, a couple of years away from thinking, that's it, I cannot sustain this anymore. Or even worse, have started having habits that contribute to end of life, drinking, drugs, all sorts of behavior that's not conducive to turn 90, right? Um,
Mm.
And I'm not saying that it has to be that extreme, but the consequence of not living who you are is that the people around you also don't know who they're living with, right? So again, I use a lot of relationship examples, and for those who are not in a relationship listening to this, I hope you will bear with me and imagine when you're going to be. But if I'm not me, my partner, did they fall in love with somebody who's not me? And if I start becoming me, will they fall out of love? If I'm not me, will they leave me because they actually fell in love with something else? So it's incredibly difficult to go through an entire life and be somebody you're not, because sooner or later you're going to pay the price. People will leave you, the job will leave you, and you'll end up with yourself who you won't be able to recognize.
And it's a very strong point about relationship, Peter, but I would even like to bring it to the next level, that even business partners, even colleagues at work, your leadership, people see if you're not aligned with who you are and what matters to you. No matter how extraordinary you are at what you do, if it's really not balanced and it's not the thing that you want to truly, that you're with your heart in it, you can see it. And that's just also professionally, it's not sustainable. That
It
promotion
is.
is not gonna come.
No, it's not sustainable. But I and many of the people on this call work for very caring companies. But I also don't want to, we shouldn't fool ourselves. Companies and managers and companies in parts of the world don't care as much about your well-being as you care about your well-being. They care about the results that you deliver. Yeah. And so you can easily go through a career and everybody around you thinks and tells you you're doing amazing and you can advance. But I think many people have also experienced, when it comes time and companies need to let go of people, they will let go of people, regardless of what happens to those people's livelihoods. And so I caution you to worry too much about what other people think in terms of how good you're performing. And I would encourage you to think about, how do I feel in this job? Do I feel intellectually fulfilled? Do I feel socially fulfilled with the colleagues that I get to work with? What would happen if I wasn't doing this tomorrow? Would it really be the end of the world, or would I figure something else out? So put it into a perspective that's not, this is my end all be all being in this job with these people, and making sure that you do something that you thoroughly enjoy. I often get this question, Peter, how do I know when it's time to do something different? And the long answer is, that's terribly difficult to say. The short answer is, when you're not the majority of the time happy and excited to go work on the thing that you work on with the people that you work on it with. If the majority of the time is like, this sucks, I don't really enjoy it, or I'm frustrated by it, then it's time to think about doing something else.
And in a corporate environment, I find that even though the work can still be fulfilling, and you can still have great time with your peers and teams, I think it's a lot of people find difficult to find the courage to be themselves, even though they could. I absolutely believe genuinely that they could. There's a lot of, not everywhere, granted, but a lot of times it's ourselves who put that pressure to fit in and to become beige and kind of not stand out. How do you find that courage, Peter, to be yourself and just do things that are right for you within obviously certain limits?
Yeah. Um, Again, for me, as people can see, I have gray hair and no hair, right? So I've gone through a couple of things. But when I speak to sort of younger employees now, like 20, 30 somethings, um, they actually have a more healthy perspective. I know they get a lot of flag in the media for being difficult to manage, and Gen Z is so demanding, this, that, and the other. And I think that's BS, basically. I think we're having a group of young individuals who know that they have options, who, you can't throw a rock in Copenhagen and not hit a kid who has a corporate job and something on the side because they're passionate about something that they're trying to make a business, right? So I'm encouraged by that. To answer your question, again, it comes back to a conversation with yourself. It's like, would I, Peter, want Dana to like me for who I am, or for the mask that I put on and the suit that doesn't quite fit? It's exhausting to be somebody you're not. It's exhausting to not be yourself. And in the beginning, when you're young and you're ambitious, you probably have the energy for it. But if I can part with some advice, it's like, the sooner you start realizing that being yourself is the only way to be, and if the environment you're currently in can't support that, then change your environment. Because in 90 years or however long you're going to live, at the end of life, nobody has any regrets of being true to themselves. The opposite is true. Most people say, I wish I didn't work so much. I wish I could be me earlier in life. Those are the two main regrets that people have.
I'm smiling about this question that somebody, I'm afraid I can't see the name of the person, but it says, but what about fake it till you make it?
Bullshit. Sorry. Why would you fake it? I think the question is it because you're striving to get a job with a certain prestige or a certain salary? Is it, why would you want to do that to yourself?
But if you have so much inner doubt, other people tell you, Peter, you're amazing. You can really do this job. You can be amazing. But you're thinking to yourself, oh, I don't know. But maybe if I pretend
But
that I
that's a different
can.
question. That's a different question. Self-doubt is different from what I'm talking about. But I'm
Okay.
really happy that you bring it up.
Yeah.
So, um, to address the faking it, the thing is, again, it's back to, it's being exhausting to be something you're not. So you have to ask yourself, why would I want to fake it to make it? What does make it mean? Again, does it mean a certain position in a certain company, in a certain context with a certain salary? All right. Why do I have to be something I'm not to get that? Right? Is it because we live in a society where I'm a man, you're a woman, Dana? I have certain privileges that are not afforded to you, right? There is discrimination against women in all sorts of workplaces for all sorts of reasons that are, to my mind, completely unjust. So maybe you feel you have to be more like white man with beard and glasses than what you actually are. And I can't solve that issue today. I can only say that is obviously wrong. I'd still argue that there are workplaces who will value you and see you for who you are, regardless of your gender, regardless of your color, regardless of your pedigree. Go find that place. The companies that win in the long term are the most diverse companies. If the place you're at now can't do that, go find something else. Um, Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
No, that was it. Don't fake it. The short answer is don't fake it, but absolutely go for what you
Oh,
feel is the
self-doubt.
right
Now
thing.
I remember. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was self-doubt, right? So I've probably had more than 300 people employed in my different companies over the years. And I saw a pattern of uh, young, smart people who came into the business. And again, there's a gender bias. And I don't know if we want to talk a lot about gender. I'm fine talking about it. If people don't appreciate that, please let us know. But most of the young, capable professional women that I hired came in with a self-doubt that was not equal to that of the guys, right? We would talk about something, some guy would be like, no problem, I got it. If we talk to a female colleague, she would be like, I'm not sure. And I would ask him, like, why not? Why don't you think you can do it? Well, I haven't tried it before. I'm like, that is fine. We can figure it out together. Well, I didn't go to school for it. Neither did I, neither did this guy, but we can still figure it out, right? So I think if you're doubting your own capability, either be honest about it, saying, actually, I want to do this thing that you are asking me to do. I'm not sure how for these reasons. Can you help me get there? And if you can't help me to get there, then we're back to Peter's rule number one. Then you need to change your environment, because then your manager is not going to help you grow.
I'm going to challenge you here.
Yes.
If somebody applies for a job, obviously this is my lens. There's many other ways looking at it, but my lens is somebody applies for a job, and these days for any average job you get hundreds, thousands of applications. And then there's 5 young men and they go like, I can do this job with my eyes closed any day of the week. I've done this over and over again. I am absolutely brilliant at it. And then there is a young lady, for the sake of example, right? And she says, this is my dream job, but I think I can do it. But, I didn't go to school for it. And the previous job, I didn't really get an opportunity to do this because it was a different setup and different opportunity. I will further discover and try to learn, right? But probably 8 out of 10 recruiting teams will not put the effort and try to dig. They will not put the time. They will not care. They're like, well, it's easy. I'm just going to take one of the guys. He's done it. No issue. Let's just move on. And this is the reality that we're seeing on the work market. Nobody wants to put the extra effort. Nobody wants to take the extra risk. Nobody wants to go out of their way. And why would you? If you have the easy fruit, you just do it and move on with it.
I know you, Dana, are putting in the effort to recruit.
I am,
and
but
and
I
and
also am
support,
very well
right?
aware that not everyone
But
operates that way.
I actually don't think you're challenging me. I think you're supporting my point indirectly, which is, why would I go work at a company who wouldn't take the care and attention and interest in figuring out how I would fit in their environment if I am qualified otherwise? Right? Because again, my experience is not working at a giant global company where I recruited that many people. I've actually built a recruiting company, but that's a story for another day. As a candidate, with the global opportunities available to us, if we're assuming you're early in your career, if we're assuming that you're mobile in some way, you can move for your career, you can choose to move or choose not to move for your career, there are plenty of companies that will care enough about you, whether you're a female coming into the workplace or a male coming into the workplace. Having said that, I understand that you could find yourself in a situation where your lack of self-confidence in the moment, or comparative self-confidence levels, will hurt your chances. If you're ballsy, you call that out, right? You go in and you go like, here I am. This is who I am. I believe I can do the job for these reasons. I have the ability to learn. If you'd rather hire somebody who claims they can but isn't proven, fine, go ahead and hire that person. I used to say that when we were hiring, our number one job was actually to convince the candidate to come work for us, not the candidate to convince us to hire them. And so it's the onus is on the company to find the person that they can make succeed in that role. And most of the time, honestly, it was the more humble, the more sort of, I don't want to say insecure, but the less boisterous candidates that did the best in our businesses, because they had a whole nother humility about them.
Yes, I hear you. That's the ideal world I would like to see everywhere. I'm sure I see some names on the chat that people who are very well aware of what's happening in the work market today. even at the very, senior jobs or mid-level jobs, or and for sure this is a different topic for a different day, Peter. Like we said, we're very ambitious in what we want to cover today, but the sad reality is, one really needs to, and this is probably where I'm gonna say a little bit of emphasizing of your abilities and your talents and your awards. And honestly, I also really don't like to bucket people into genders or any other categories. But my own empirical data, I've spoken to enough of all genders and all ethnographies and whatever talent. And the sad reality is that females do tend to be a lot more modest. Until they've really received the Grammy, they're not gonna go and say, I am amazing, right? And this is something that I probably want to put a little note there, that maybe during those times when people don't know you, when you are there to show them what you've done and how great you've done it, maybe a little bit of adding color to that painting is
But it's
not a.
not the candidate. But my point is, we shouldn't put the onus on the candidate. We should put the onus on your colleagues. It is you in this scenario, in large corporates, and the people on this call who are in the hiring, in the talent acquisition teams. It is upon you to not be lazy and just pick the easy guy. It is on you to make sure that there's a fair shake for the less confident person coming into the interview. It is not on the candidate that has to change their attitude. That would be my argument,
A
because
bit of
you're
both.
smarter,
Yeah,
you
both.
see it.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah, but I think it's so easy. I think it's so easy for in society. It's the same thing with introverts, right? We tell introverts, oh, you just need to be more, energetic and stuff, and then life will be easier for you. Wait a minute. No, they are who they are. They might not be the life of the party, and that's okay. And you might not be super self confident and talk about all your accolades, and that's okay too, right? I don't really want us to push the responsibility to those who are already disadvantaged in some way, whether it's because of gender or color or something else. I want us to say, if we're the ones who are responsible for putting together the best team that can deliver the best things for our companies, we need to find the best candidates we can, regardless of what they look, sound, or come across as.
100%. 100%. In the environment that we're operating, I think selecting the absolute best candidates, and this is probably where Aga is coming a little bit, with the comment about culture fit versus culture add. I think having the best candidate for the role, for the team, for the challenge, for the dynamics, for culture, you name it, best will be a completely different kind of candidate for everyone. However, I think this is critical for the teams who want to succeed. It is critical. So I like that. Let's make it a call out. If you are hiring in your team, or if you are involved in assessment process, go out of your way to ensure that nobody gets overlooked just because they don't emphasize how incredibly brilliant they are.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I built a recruiting business some years ago in London, and we used software and data to help companies hire for cultural fit versus just hire because of somebody had gone to Oxford or Yale or something else, right? So we developed some technology that allowed us to say, out of we work for American Express. They got 3,000 applicants a year to 30,000 jobs, 3,000 applicants through an ATS, applicant tracking system. Keywords nightmare. They got a bunch of the same that they already had, but not somebody who would actually add to the culture while still fitting in, right? So a combination of the two things that Aga is mentioning in the comment here. And as it turns out, we could actually pinpoint candidates who we knew would fit well within the structure of how they worked, who did not look like people they already had, right? So we combined the cultural fit and cultural add. The challenge I think many companies have when they hire is to say, oh, we want something new and different. And then as it goes through all the interviews, they end up with the exact same thing that they already have. Why? Because we're human. we're comfortable hiring what looks and sounds and feels and talks like us. If we have to use our brains because it's a little bit over here, it's a little bit up there, it's difficult. And that's why we can use technology to actually identify benefits. Now, I know somebody's thinking, "Oh, well, wait a minute, Peter. Didn't Isn't there a lot of discrimination in technology?" Yes, that is true too. Technology is not perfect, but we certainly can use it to help avoid some of the biases that we as humans also have when we're trying to build our teams.
What is one small thing, Peter, each of us can do today to help us be more centered? I know I'm backtracking heavily into
That's
the
fine.
previous topic, but I feel they're connected. They're still very much connected, because if I want to succeed, regardless whether it's a job application or a promotion or a personal life or whatever, right? What is one small thing that I can do today to help myself, apart from that walk in the forest? I absolutely love that idea, and now with the spring outside, it's even more enjoyable, unless you have hay fever. Anything else that I can do today to help myself to be me and to get closer to that place where I can truly strive?
So it's going to sound a little bit like a broken record, and it's not going to sound like something you want to do. Um, I've found over the years that, again, the lack of input is what allows you to have the right output or outlook really on life. So the one small thing you can do is to spend much less time on your phone. And now people are like, "Oh, I can't do that. I have to be available. I have to be reachable. I live in a global economy, this, that, and the other." And to that, again, I use my favorite BS, right? You can absolutely, if you drive to work, for example, for those who do that, when you come home, let the phone sleep in the car. The phone can overnight in the car. It's going to be okay. It's not going to be scared. It'll be there in the morning. You don't need to bring it into your home. If you don't drive, if you bring it into your home because you live in an apartment or something else, the phone can overnight in a drawer. It can even be shut off. Unless you're a heart surgeon and you're waiting, or a liver transplant surgeon and you're waiting for a liver transplant to be called in, chances are whatever is going to happen between the hours of 8 in the evening and 7 or 8 in the morning can wait. And you don't need to be scrolling TikTok. You don't need to be, take some steam off by looking at Instagram or something else. All that stuff can wait. And if you do that, I guarantee you will start feeling more like yourself. You'll start feeling more centered. In the beginning, it will be difficult. You'll have, the jitters because you want to go grab your phone. But as you get through that, it takes a couple of days. It's kind of like coffee. A couple of days when not doing it, you'll start feeling a completely sense of yourself that is different from what you're feeling today.
I'll start by once a week. Is that okay?
I prefer you do it for a couple of hours at night every night. So
Oh
shut off the
no, every night, that's for sure. That's clear. But like leaving it in the car when I come home,
What happens on the phone work-wise between the hours of 8 in the evening and 8 in the morning?
probably not much that I can influence. But
There you go. You're checking it because you're curious. You're checking it because you're thinking, I need to be prepared for tomorrow morning or something. Unless you have a board meeting at 8 a.m. the next morning, you can wake up, have your tea, coffee, your thing, go outside, whatever you do in the morning, and then turn on the phone and then start reacting to what's happening. You don't need to be reacting for the 12 hours between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m.
I'll try. I'll let you know how I do.
Please.
All right. The third thing that you and I agreed that we wanted to talk about, and now I'm making a sharp pivot, which I don't know, maybe it doesn't contradict with leaving the phone in the car, but maybe a little bit, is about putting yourself out there.
Yes.
Right. I mean, if I'm at home with a closed door, it's probably a little bit tricky to put myself out there. But how do I do it, Peter? And why do I do it? If I'm at the right place, at the right job, doing great work, Why do I need to put myself out there? People will see how good I am.
If we're talking in terms of your potential career opportunities in the future, if that's the premise, if that's what we're talking about in the context, nobody will see how good you are unless you start sharing how you see the world or how you perceive issues. The only person who's going to see that is potentially your direct manager, maybe some of your colleagues, but anybody who's been in a large corporate also knows that you get surprised from time to time when somebody gets promoted and you don't, right? So what is it that they're actually seeing? Um, I'd argue that the reason you should put yourself out there is because you either want to have a conversation beyond your immediate circle. That's why I started doing it. I was just like, I'm going to share how I see the world and see who wants to have that conversation. From that comes wonderful opportunities like this one, talking to you. Um, it Most people, if we think about, I can say a lot of mean things about social media, and I don't think that's where we're going, but um, you should put yourself out there if you want to have different conversations than the conversations you're having today, right? And that could be in a job context, in a personal context. It could be your interest, knitting, sailing, whatever it is. You can find those communities now in a different way than you could otherwise, but you have to put yourself out there to have those.
So in the career angle, what you're saying is I have to do a good job, but I also need to go out and brag about what a good job I'm doing.
No, I didn't say brag. I said you need to go out, and if you care about an issue, let's say you're a pharmaceutical salesperson. I think there's some people from that industry on here, right? It's not about, oh, I closed this deal or I sold this to whatever. No, it's about, well, one thing I've observed in sales is this. We've gone from a push model to a pull model, or it's no longer about pricing. I found that it's these 5 things that change the dynamics when I try to sell my wares. Whatever it is, whatever your perspective on your industry, on your role, on the world, that's what you're talking about. you know if I sat next to you, Dana, at a dinner party, and you said, you know what, Peter, I'm the absolute best at making PowerPoint slides, right? I'm really good at it. I'd shoot myself. But if you said, you know what, one thing I found when we're communicating with candidates is we need to be much more on the personal side of things. So I talk a lot about my personal life when I talk to candidates because I want them to understand what kind of human being I am when they come to work with me. I'm like, that's interesting. Isn't that weird? Are people being put off by that? Then we're having a conversation. But you're not bragging about you being good. You're talking about how you do your job, not how good you are at it.
Uh, it could still feel uncomfortable for a lot of people. How do
Yes.
we how do we get past that?
Oh, that's a good question. In principle, I don't think we should do something that feels forced, right? So you shouldn't go out and be on LinkedIn like I am every single day if it's painful to you, right? Don't do that. But you can be. I lost my train of thought here, but if it's uncomfortable, ask yourself, why is it uncomfortable? Is it because I don't want people to pay attention to me? Well, then you shouldn't be out there, right? If it's because I think people are going to think I'm stupid for what I'm saying, right? That's a lot of what I hear from people. They're like, oh, what if somebody says what I'm writing is dumb? Unfortunately, nobody cares. I have data and proof that will show you that you think everybody will read your stuff and think all sorts of things about you. They won't. They're busy with their own stuff, their own hangups, their own insecurities. So nobody's really going to pay attention to whether you're smart or not. But if people resonate with what you're talking about, back to my first point, you can have conversations with incredible people just because you shared in the public domain something that you cared about.
I can very strongly resonate with that, Peter. I have had some amazing connections with people who refer back to posts I barely remember,
Mhm.
uh, things that really seemed so kind of matter of fact and basic to me, but really meant a great deal to other people,
Yep.
and that absolutely is impressive, and it leaves an impression. And just the other
But
day, somebody approached me at the office and said, "Oh, I've been reading your posts since a good while, and now I finally got the job here, and I'm so excited, and it really showed me what this company is, and so that's why I really kept applying, and now it worked out, and I'm really happy." And for me, it was like, yeah, but I don't really talk about company. I don't talk
mm,
about culture, or I talk about me. And so for this person, it was, well, I talk about me, and, what I do, and how I do, and how I see the world. Back to your point, right? One thing I noticed, um, for this person, me was the company.
mhm,
Although company has hundreds of thousands of employees, they associate, or somebody else associates me with a working mom. Oh,
mm,
you were writing about this, and now I really want to return to workforce because I believe I can do it too.
uh,
Right? So if
yep.
you can do it, I can do it too. So I think you're right. It's not scary, but there is a very strong resistance. And I hear a lot from people who say, "How do you do it? You must be spending
But
so much time."
and you can spend a lot of time doing it, but you can also do what I think both you and I are doing, which is you have an idea about some topic. I write now because I like to help people. So I write something that I think will help somebody think about the world differently because they've read what I wrote. And I've gotten a ton of followers on LinkedIn, right? Which still blows my mind that so many people follow my stuff. Um, but that means I get to have really interesting conversation. I got a book deal with Wiley, for crying out loud, because I wrote online. So my book, The Whole Human Leader, is coming out in August, right? Which is basically my philosophy about being an executive and being a leader of others, which one of the world's major publishers is now going to put out because I 5 years ago every morning started typing up whatever was in my head, not worrying about what the world would think. I'd not in a million years thought that that would be possible. I know that one of our mutual friends connections got an amazing job because that person had been public with how they viewed the world, right? So somebody saw that and they're like, you need to come work here for us in this job that we'll create for you, where you can do all this wonderful stuff. So I think only good things come by being public with how you see the world. And yes, there are going to be idiots who are going to say, oh, that's dumb. Well, they can just stop following you or you can block them, right?
And Barbara says, I'm not quite sure that maybe some punctuation is missing, but you should push a bit because it's kind of like public speaking. Once you get through the fear, you can propel easier.
And it's true. So I to maybe paraphrase Barbara, it's like you got to get the early reps in and overcome that initial concern about being a public speaker or being a public thought sharer, writer. And then over time it does get easy. I still get hit though. I've written 3,500 things on LinkedIn. I just saw the number today. 3,500 pieces of content. I still get upset if somebody points out that I'm being dumb or stupid or simpleton or whatever they could say. It
Does that
still
happen?
hurts.
Really?
Yeah, it does happen. Yeah, the world is a big place. There's a billion people on LinkedIn. Chances are they didn't actually read what I wrote, right? So I forgive them. And if I can, I respond in a way that I'm like, all right, I appreciate that you think I'm an idiot. Um, I was coming at it from this angle. Is that what you read, or is there something we could talk about? Guess how many times the people who flame you answer? Zero. It's drive-bys. They don't matter. I don't know if they're real or not. It does not matter, right? So you just got to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And the moment you're on the way, keeping going, for me personally, it's just so easy because you're already, it's like you already put on your sneakers and you're in the gym. Well, you're not going to turn around and go back because now that's the easy part.
And also, most people want people to succeed. So I think what you'll find, if you're one of the lurkers right now who's thinking about being public with how you view the world, the vast majority of people who will read your stuff will not react or comment or anything, but they will take some value from it. And that's a worthwhile pursuit. You're actually making somebody else's life in some tiny, tiny way better because you're sharing something that you know or something that you care about. Number one. Number two, the vast majority of people will be like, that's amazing, Peter. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Or, hey, Dana, I now understand how your company works in a different way. That's cost me to apply to it. So thank you. People want to be supportive and positive about what we do. So don't let the few that don't stop you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll just really briefly link it back to the job search process.
Mhm.
There's a lot of amazing, talented, smart people out there, but there's significantly less of those smart people that are visible. So if you are one of those people and you want, I often get asked, how do I stand out? How do I differ myself from others? Well, just a little bit of visibility, sharing more of what you know, what you think, can go a long way.
Absolutely. That's also my number one piece of advice. Be public with how you see the world, and the world will find you.
And then that visibility also, back to what we were saying before, that initiates new conversations, new
Mhm.
connections, getting to know new people. And I'm not even going to go there, but building that network, of people who like you and believe in you, can really be a game changer.
Mhm.
Shall we pick some questions? I know we're
I'd
we're
love
we're low
that.
on time. I saw there was a long question from Oana, and she's saying, Peter, I'm wondering about this for a while. Looking at the job market, talking to friends that are employed or unemployed, a lot of what's out there are roles with rigid scripts, micromanagement, meaningless KPIs, all the fun stuff, cultures that reward conformity. If I may say so, a ton of BS jobs. I think a lot of people have awesome values, and many do the inner search, also exercise, eat healthy, etc. Could it be we advise for a job market that doesn't actually exist anymore? Entrepreneurship, solopreneurship.
I hope I understand the question correctly. Let me answer it this way, or share a thought, and then Oana can come back if we totally missed it or I missed it. Um, we live in a world where there are more opportunities to not go work for a company than ever before. We live in a
Mhm.
world where it's possible for the vast majority of white collar workers to make a living that doesn't involve a corporate that employs them. I understand if you're a carpenter or something else, it's a little bit different. But for many of us, it is possible not to go work somewhere. We have choices. And so I think the jobs, if that's what Oana is referring to, that are very rigid in terms of the specs and how people need to show up, they will find themselves at the bottom of the barrel in terms of their pick of the talent. Because again, back to my comment about the early generations coming into the job market, there are geographical differences, obviously, but in the Western world, a lot of those people are going to be like, nah, I don't want to be put in that box. Then I'd rather go do something else. And I'm not talking about becoming TikTok influencers and Instagram content creators and all that stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. But there's a confidence level that's increasing. There's a distribution mechanism through the internet. There is access to partnerships in different ways for young people today to build their own businesses quite quickly, enough for them to succeed. So if you're a company that forces them into some rigid KPI driven place, I don't think you'll get the best people over time, and therefore you will not succeed over time.
Yes, I agree. I think the trick here is, and in a way, I think Juana's talking exactly what I was saying before, that maybe the truth is in between your view of the world, and you probably need that to motivate and kind of break the box for people that you're advising. Is a little bit, the world is your oyster. We have internet, right? You just need to decide what is it that you want to do, and go out and get it. The reality is sometimes not as easy, not as flexible. But
Why not?
I do agree. Why not? It's a good question.
No, but
um,
seriously,
well,
I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's
no.
easy to do. I'm saying it is possible to do. So if you have more choice as a young professional today than you've ever had, and a large part of that choice involves you being able to create your own destiny through doing something. That doesn't mean
Mm,
you have the ideas. That doesn't mean you have the self-confidence. That doesn't mean you have easy access to distribution. That doesn't mean you have easy access to things that you need. But it is possible. I mean, my dad is 85 this year, right? He didn't have those choices when he had to choose what to do. You basically studied economics and then you went to work for the government or IBM, right? That was about it. Today, it's a different world, no matter whether you're in Nigeria, or whether you're in South Korea, or whether you're in Latin America or in Denmark, the possibilities exist. And that's the alternative, not that it's going to be easy not to go work for corporate.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's always an option, but there's also a ton of buts that some of them that are real, especially for people in their mid to later career, that are in Western world, that have responsibilities and mortgages and life to do. Children, scary word, I know, but I think
We should do another call on this because, again,
we
I
do,
disagree. Because if, let's say,
and I love
you're a
it. I love it.
mid 40s or early 50s professional, you have two teenage kids and a partner, and you have some wonderful house and stuff. Okay, take that and then say, is this where I want to be? Is this how I want to live my life? Okay, yes, that is how I want to be. This is where I want to live my life. Okay, that requires a certain level of income. Okay, therefore I need to do certain things.
Mm,
But there are all choices. You could decide, talk to your partner and say, listen, buddy, I actually don't need to live in this house in this very expensive canton in Switzerland. I would prefer if we took this circus on the road and did something else. Can we talk about that? So I think some people feel that they're trapped, and that's what I kind of pine against. Nobody is trapped. You have a choice. It is not easy, but you certainly can sit yourself down and your partner and saying, is this what we want to do the next 10 years, or should we try and make a different plan?
I'll give it to you. You win.
I don't want to win. I want to have the conversation, but maybe that's for another time.
I have a plan for circus on tour, so we can discuss this offline.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Well, Anna says thanks. So maybe we got the question right. Let me
Mhm.
see. Let me see. Then there's a couple of comments about thinking out of the box, but they hire people that fit their rigid box.
Mhm.
Yes, and I think this is very much what you were saying, that do you want to be in that box? If this is how they hire, if this is how they operate, do you want to sit in that box? Is that your kind of box? If it's not, then that's okay. Let them hire into the box, no?
Yeah, exactly, and I think what's being addressed here is a lot of companies say they want one thing, but they hire another thing, and that was again back to the earlier point, right? There's a Danish saying, and I don't think it translates, but it's basically that like for like, we're best together, meaning we shouldn't expect the zebra to all of a sudden want to hang out with a gazelle, right? I mean, zebras like zebras and gazelles like gazelles. They don't hang out together, they go in their own tribes. And it's the same thing with companies. So if a company is saying we really want something different, but their behavior is showing you that that's actually not what's happening, run for the hills. Go somewhere else if you don't fit the box and if you don't want to be in that box.
Yeah, agree. And so Daniela is asking now, how do you know when to push for change versus when to accept and appreciate where you are?
Ah, that's a good one. How painful is it, Danielle? Right. How painful is it? Hand over the candle? We were dumb teenagers once, Danielle. I'm assuming you did the same thing as I did, right? But we would have like a candle and we put our hand over there and who could hold it the longest. And obviously, some would give up sooner than others because of our pain tolerance or lack of brain cells. I'm not sure. And that's the answer to the question. How is it affecting your life? Is it a change that is temporary? Is it permanent? Is it increasing in severity, pain? What is it? How is it actually affecting your life? In most cases, honestly, when I have that conversation with folks, we've spoken for 7 minutes and they realize whether or not the pain is too much. It is difficult to have that conversation with yourself. It is difficult to have that conversation with your partner because they're like, oh, but you love the job. Or, yeah, you should definitely leave. That's terrible. I love you, honey. You should go. That's not good input because they have a vested interest because they care about you, right? Your friends, same thing. And so a big part of the coaching profession essentially is to be the person who has no interest but yours at heart and help you find the answers inside of you, and trust those answers and then act on them. So that's a long way of saying, look at yourself. How painful is it? Is it a pain that you want to endure? If there's an ounce of doubt that you want to endure that pain, I'd start making a change or push for a change.
Yeah. I've been in a painful situation, Daniela, myself, and there were times when it kind of hit that border, and I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm throwing in a towel. I'm putting myself a deadline. If the pain level doesn't change, that's it. I run for the hills, quoting Peter. But then things sort out in unexpected ways, and you go like, actually, things are great.
Hmm.
No need to run anywhere. It's worked out well. So that said, maybe running for the hills is not always the worst option, but also maybe sometimes that pain tends to figure it out itself.
That's true. It can subside. But let me ask you a human question then. Do you think people tend to stick with stuff that's not good for them longer than quitting before time?
Yes.
They do. And we tend to do that because we want to be good partners, if it's a relationship thing, or we have a belief that we can solve this, or we're afraid of the alternative. Oh my God, I'm going to be alone. How am I going to survive? Job wise, but I work for this prestigious company. If I leave, what will people think of me? I couldn't make it inside of this environment. Meanwhile, my boss is a toxic a-hole and makes my life miserable every day. We have all these things that we tell ourselves. So I don't think people prematurely leave bad situations. I think the reverse is true. I think people stick with something too long that they honestly should have quit some time ago.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I think only you can hear it yourself,
Mm,
reflecting, thinking what
right.
works for you, what doesn't work for you. Um, and I think somebody much earlier in our conversation, maybe it was also Daniele, who said we really don't take time to hit a pause. We're constantly rushing, and now with the increased level of noise, with all the technology and with all the artificial everything, I think the nice way to wrap up our conversation today is, if you can do one thing for you, hit a pause, take an afternoon or take a day off. I'm sure the family will be fine without you. Even your kids are as small and needy as mine. And just take a moment to breathe, to think for yourself, and to listen to yourself and hear what is it that you feel, and what is it that you need, and what is it that is gonna make you happy and successful on the way forward. And
Can you hear
Peter, are
me?
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I got a phone call and because I'm on my phone, the whole thing kabobulated. Was there a question for me? Sorry, or did I need to
There
do
was no
something?
question. There was just a
Oh,
way to wrap up our conversation to say
okay.
that the one thing that I take away from myself, aside from the phone in the car, I'll think about that, is take that moment for yourself. Take that long walk in the forest. Leave your phone in the car. For
Let
that,
me
for
let
sure.
me give you another daily tip then.
Yes,
You don't need to take a day off. You don't need to go for long walks in the park or in this forest.
I
You need
wanted
to
to.
find a way in your day to day to spend 5 minutes, 10, 15, maybe 30 minutes sitting on a bench somewhere, standing in the mall, not moving, just be quiet with yourself in a space and observe what's going on around you. And for those on the call who meditate, it's basically meditation in public, right? It's giving yourself a moment just to be where you are and observe what's happening around you. You don't have to sit on a mat and chant Om, although you can do that too if that's something you like. I do that every day and it has helped me tremendously. Just being in quiet with yourself in little moments throughout the day will materially change your ability to see things clearly.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Hmm.
much, Peter. I really enjoyed it. I will have
Likewise.
absolutely things to reflect, to think, to possibly reevaluate, and I hope some of you who watch this conversation will do too. Let us know in the comments. We will monitor them on the way forward. There will be a recording if you want to rewatch it or share with somebody you think could benefit from this conversation. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you for everyone for being here, and have a great afternoon or evening wherever you are in the world.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.